Hello, I am KT. This channel is What KT Made Next. If you've been here before, then welcome back. If not, then please consider subscribing. This video is actually in two parts, and this is the second part of it. I've had to do that because it was getting far too long. In the first part, we looked at using glass paint in a couple of different ways to colour the glass, and also using stuff called rub and buff. In this second part, we're going to move on to looking at a number of different ways to colour the glass, including using things like marker pens or metal foils. I hope you'll find this useful and enjoy the video. One other thing you can try using would be Sharpie pens, or any alcohol ink based pen. I have Sharpies in a whole range of colours, so I'm just going to use them. And let's make a little red heart to start with. Now, any alcohol ink based pen will do this, or indeed alcohol inks if you have them. Very appropriate, little red heart. And this one is a sort of bronze colour, I suppose. We'll use that on the letter. And I'll also use it to fill in this shape that we've engraved here with the little bit of shading in it. Now the next one to try will be acrylic paint. Since we've done the little heart red with the marker pen, let's do a red one with the acrylic paint as well. Now whether you choose to thin this down with a bit of water or whatever, that's entirely up to you. The thinner you make it, the more translucent it will be, but then the less rich the colour will be. Again, just filling in the shape. And again, I'm not going to worry too much if it goes over the edges a little bit, because that paint's going to be quite easy to clear off of the unengraved bits of the glass. And I'll pick a different colour for the other parts. Maybe I've got a blue one that sort of matches with the bits up at the top. Right, next up I have got some mirror foil. This happens to be a gold one. It comes in all sorts of different colours. This is a Pibio one, but I'm sure there are loads and loads of other manufacturers that do just the same thing. So this foil, it's a gold finish, and you'll notice that the back is different. It's silver. The way that you apply this is you have to lay down some adhesive. This is the gilding paste. I'm told you can use other types of adhesive, but this is the gilding paste that's made for it. This is water-based. If I lay down a little of this adhesive, we can then have a look to see how this metallic foil works. And the instructions for this say to lay down a coat of the adhesive and then to let it rest for around 15 minutes. So that's what we'll do. That's our 15 minutes up, and I don't know, it may be showing the camera, but the milkiness has gone from this. It's looking much clearer, so I think it's time we can start putting on some of the gold foil. Now, with this stuff, you have to put it down so that the backing goes down against the adhesive. So this silver coloured bit goes down against the adhesive, and then the gold is facing you. So why don't I'll start with the little heart here. And I'm just going to press it in to the shape. Now you can use say, the handle of a brush or something like that to make sure you get right around the edges. Just work it in. Then hopefully, when we peel back the foil, the gold gets left behind. That's the plan. Oh, almost worked. Let's try a little bit more, see if we can get some of that to stick in here a bit better. I'll just keep going and put this in here. And if I'm very worried about the bits that I've missed, I'll put a little bit more adhesive on there. A little bit more of the gilding paste. And then go over it again. There we go. And that's looking much better. Now I'll need to leave that to dry properly before I try and clean it up, otherwise I'll just make a mess. So we'll just leave that a little bit before we go and do anything else. And whilst that's drying, I can move on to the next one. Down here. Right, so for this bit I'm going to be using gold leaf. This is gold leaf on a transfer sheet. So it's attached onto this tissue paper. And it's also shining light into the camera, which isn't helping greatly. But I'm quite happy to work with the gold leaf on the transfer sheet. I think I would struggle. I believe I would struggle to do anything with loose gold leaf. It would probably blow away across the kitchen or whatever. However, that's what I'm going to use this time. So 23 carat gold leaf. And just as for the metal foil, you have to put down an adhesive for it. I have here some gold size. This one remains workable for 1 to 2 hours, so it's a lot slower to dry than the gilding liquid that I used for the last one. This is gold size. The gilding liquid I used for the leaf is water-based. This stuff is oil-based. So you need to clean your brushes with a solvent of some sort, acetone or paint thinner, something like that. But other than that, the system is very much the same. Just paint it on to all the bits you want the gold leaf to stick to. And the big difference, if there is one, is that this stuff remains slightly tacky, sticky, for very much longer. This one is 1 to 2 hours. You can get, depending on the size you buy, they remain open, workable for varying lengths of time. And it basically depends on your own preference and the type of job you're doing, which one is going to work best for you. I'm just trying to spread out a fairly even coat in all these shapes. Now, as for the gilding liquid that I used before, that has to set up for maybe about 20 minutes until it's tacky, but it's not wet anymore. So we'll let that happen, and then I'll come back and add on the gold leaf. Okay, that size has had a chance to set up now. It's still tacky, but it doesn't come off on my finger, so I think we're ready to go with the gold leaf. Now, this is very similar to the metal foil that we just did, but in this case it's the gold side I need to put down because the paper's obviously on the back of that. So let's just do this. I'll start with this bit, and I'm just gently pressing that down onto the sides. And then I will peel it back. Oh look, a bit of gold leaf's escaped. That happens sometimes. And now I'll put some onto the little heart. It's going down quite well. There's maybe a little bit of the point there missing, but we can just do that. There we go. And then we have the letter to do. Now, oh, got goldfinger, look. just working that down into the size and then peel it back. Now you will see that gold has come off all over the place. Places where it's not supposed to be. But again, I'm not going to worry too much about that just now. I'm going to let that all set up. Let the size finish drying off before I come back to clean that all up. I'm maybe being overly cautious in doing that. It might be possible to just, it does come off. But having put all this work into doing it, I don't want to ruin it just now, so we'll leave it to set, and then I'll clean everything up and we can have a look at all of the different things we've used to colour the glass and look at the pros and cons of each one and see if any of those will work for your project. Now that's all had a good chance to dry off, so I'll start cleaning it up. For the gold leaf you can use a fairly light soft brush to remove anything that's loose on the surface. But then you have to take off anything that's spread out from where you want it to be. There's a couple of things you can use for that. The edge of an old credit card or plastic card works quite well. Like that. Or you could use a blade of some sort, any kind of sharp blade, to start removing it. Or you can actually use a cocktail stick. The end of a cocktail stick will quite nicely remove anything that's loose. So I will continue on, clean this all up, and then we can have a good look at it and you can see if any of these will work for you for the project that you're working. The next section is the bit I did with the Sharpie markers. Any alcohol pen will work, or indeed if you have alcohol ink, then that's fine. The colours are quite good. Not, I think, as bright as we get from the Rub and Buff, but still quite good. There's reasonable coverage in the area of the rectangle. It's a little more translucent than the Rub and Buff. I can see the movement of my finger behind the coloured area. Looking at it from the other side, it still looks quite well. From this side it's more noticeable that, similar to the effect on the Rub and Buff, the area that was originally shaded comes out lighter. Again, presumably because the ink hasn't settled into the scratches on the glass to the same extent. But quite good from both sides, I would say. The next section was the bit I did with the acrylic paint. Acrylic paints are obviously very readily available, and as you maybe see, they colour the glass quite nicely. I had the paint reasonably thin, so it's fairly translucent. I can see movement of my hand behind the engraving, but it's simple to apply. It's also quite simple to clean up any excess off the top of the glass, and it gives quite a nice finish. Then we come to the metal foil. Now, what happened when I applied this is what has happened every single time I've done this. There are some areas where it just doesn't seem to like to stick. The gold heart has stuck very well and gives a nice, bright, shiny finish. Not quite so good in the letter A, and on the rectangle there are areas of the tool marking on there but it just hasn't wanted to stick. That's the same effect I've had on other occasions when I've used this metal foil. So I don't think it's just that I didn't make a very good job of it. I think it's part of how it works. It gives, I suppose, sort of a distressed look to it. So maybe if you were looking for a distressed finish, the metal foils might work quite well. And as I say, they come in a range of colours and they're relatively inexpensive. One thing to notice about this though, yes, from this side it's a nice gold colour and it's quite shiny and it looks quite nice. But if you'll remember, the other side of this material was not gold coloured, it's a silver colour. So if you're looking to engrave a wine glass or a vase or something where you're going to be able to see both sides of the engraving, this metal foil material might not work so well for you. If you're doing something to hang on a wall, however, that might be ideal. And it does give quite a nice, almost distressed look to it. The last area I did was gilded using 23 karat gold leaf. It has covered quite nicely. There's no real gaps in the gilding that are readily apparent. It is completely opaque. There is no light coming through it, and I should say that's the same for the metal foil as well, other than where the foil hasn't gone down clearly. But for the gold leaf, it is completely opaque. There's no light passing through it at all. There is no indication of any difference in the shaded areas and the non-shaded areas in the rectangle. But the finish is very nice. It's got a very nice, can I say it looks more goldy than the metal foil? But it does, it looks more like real gold, because of course it is real gold, I suppose. So it's not particularly difficult to do. It has the advantage, unlike the metal foil, that it's the same on both sides. It's gold both ways round. So for a glass or something like that, where you'll be able to see both sides, the actual gold leaf works better, I think. And it's relatively easy if you get the gold leaf on the transfer paper to use. Now I'm sure there are lots of other ways to add colour onto your engraving. And if you know any, please put something in the comments about it, because this whole series of videos is about sharing knowledge and sharing information. So if you know a good way of colouring the glass, please put it in the comments and share it with everyone else. In the meantime, I hope that you've seen something here that will be useful to you. Maybe got some ideas of how you can add colour to your own engraving. Each of these methods that we've looked at today has its plus points and its minus points. Some are simpler to do than others. Some use materials that are easier to get hold of, some are more expensive, some produce a better finish. There's no one method that is the right way to do it. It depends on what look you're trying to get in your finished work. But maybe you'll have got some ideas from this that will help you decide, if you decide you want to colour your engraving, will help you decide which method you want to use. And that's all I'm going to cover today. But if you have any ideas of things that you'd like to see a video about, please let me know. Just put something in the comments. And I hope that you found this interesting and useful. If you have, and you're not subscribed yet, then please click subscribe. And I hope that I'll see you again for my next video, which I think is going to be about engraving mirrors. And thank you again for watching.